coming to you from his new podcasting studio with the same great organic living and gardening advice. Here he is, my dad, the dirt doctor, Howard Garrett.
Alrighty, here we go. Another podcast. And we will start it as we always do with a little sip of tea. I have lemongrass tea, it's commercial tea, mixed with juniper today. That's a nice combination too. Give it a shot if you haven't already. If you don't know that the native juniper, eastern red cedar or mountain ash or red cedar, any of those native cedars make very tasty tea. And I think it seems to have worked for me. It seems to keep the cedar fever away. So give it a try. The dog feature today, got a good one for you. It's Adelaide. Adelaide is our female dog, 1 year old. Adelaide is really good looking, so check her out right under the appearance button on dirtdoctor.com. Good news from the past, Simon was adopted, so appreciate that. Thanks for that help. If you want to get the details on Adelaide, just click on that pet adoption button right there on the homepage of dirtdoctor.com. I wanted to plug a little book. I want to talk about some of the books besides my books. My books, of course, I recommend too, but there are other books in my library. I've got a huge library, and some of the best books I thought I would plug for you. This one is called The One Straw Revolution. It's a small book. It was written quite a while ago. I don't remember exactly what the pub date was, but The One Straw Revolution by a Japanese gardener by the name of Fukuoka, Masanobu Fukuoka, and he was a lot like my teacher from San Antonio, Texas, Malcolm Beck, just a practical guy. The two main points, the whole book's worth reading, but the two main points in the book that are different than maybe anything you've ever read or heard from an organic teacher is, number one, he believed in mixing crops together. He didn't plant a row of radishes and a row of greens and a row of something else and something else. He planted things intermixed. And he was really a big advocate of that. He also did not recommend making compost in a compost pile, a normal way of doing compost. He recommended just putting it on the ground as a mulch and letting it turn into compost on the ground. Another point I probably ought to mention too is he was probably, he may not have been the first, but he was the first I ever read that actually grew rice on dry land. He didn't use the flooding method. So anyway, there's a lot of interesting things in the book. I'd recommend putting it in your library. You can get it online, I'm sure. Acres USA had it. I think that's where I got it originally. And there's a lot of other good books. We'll talk about them. If you go to my website again, dirtdoctor.com, just do a search for books that Howard recommends, and I've got all the books there that I recommend. It's one of the entries I'll be updating here soon. So take a look at it right away, but then go back to it from time to time because I haven't updated it in quite a while. Now that we have the new website, I can update those things pretty easily, and I will do that for you. Okay, questions, Q&As, got a lot of them to go over with you. Well, let me mention one thing. This may not drop until the event's already going on. Hopefully, we may try to drop it a little bit early because I'm involved in an art show this weekend down in Deep Ellum with my friend and artist, Ace Cordell. Ace is a sculptor, does primarily metal sculptures, welded pieces. And he invited me to be down there, so I have some of my paintings down there in his show, basically, too. It'll be all day, Valentine's Day this Saturday, maybe Saturday now when you're watching this. So come down if you can and say hi. And also, for those of you who can't make the show and would like to see my art, it's real simple to do. Same way you find out about my speaking engagements, and I've got several coming up. You go to the appearance button on dirtdoctor.com, right on the home page, click on it, and it'll give you all of the appearances that are going to be coming up, where they're located and what's going on. The next one after this, I think, is one of the ShowTech events where I'm speaking over in Fort Worth. So check that out. I hope to see you at one or more of the events. Question about orange oil, using it for fire ants and various ants on plants. I had a question about a lemon tree that was being attacked by ants. And yeah, orange oil is as good as anything, especially if they're carpenter ants. For some reason, carpenter ants really hate orange oil. So if you have carpenter ants in your house that are making a mess, not only will the orange oil mix at about 2 ounces per gallon, if you're not spraying it around plants, you can mix it more stronger than that. You can mix it at 3 ounces per gallon of water, and it'll really kill them. It also, besides killing them on contact, will set up a repelling situation that'll keep them from coming back. The orange oil also works for ants in trees, but there's something important for you to know about that. Most of the questions that I get are questions about ants that are harming trees. They don't do that. The only ants that harm a tree are the true Texas cut ant, which cuts the leaves and takes it down a little caravan to an underground home for the ants, where they build compost piles, and they feed off of the fungus that grows on the compost pile. So they're hurting the tree because they're stripping trees and shrubs and things like that. But you won't really ever see an ant attacking a woody plant and actually causing damage to the woody plant. Now, they're going to take advantage of a rotted area or an area that's in trouble for some other reason, and they're going to set up shop in those places. So if you have ants, remember that they're probably not the culprit hurting the plant. There's something else that's caused that damage in the plant that attracted the ants, unless it's the Texas cut ant. But anytime you have ants on trees, you can get rid of them with that orange oil. Don't mix the orange oil stronger outside when you're spraying the plant foliage, stronger than 2 ounces per gallon of water. If you go stronger than that, the orange oil can do a little damage to the plants. It's one reason why when we're spraying weeds and using the organic technique, and we're using the 20% vinegar, which is my most common recommendation. If you mix 1 ounce of liquid molasses and 1 ounce of orange oil in with it, it will kill more effectively, and the kill will be more thorough when you're actually trying to kill something. So remember that. Orange oil is a great tool. It's also a great cleaning product to use in the house. It sets up a great fragrance, and it's a wonderful cleaner. I had a question about mulch and leaves, and when you should pick up the leaves, put them in the compost pile, was the specific question. Well, first of all, I don't recommend putting leaves in the compost pile except as a last resort. When you're cleaning up leaves, I know a lot of you have already finished with that. Some people are still going through it. We are at our house, because I have a Cambie oak, and the Cambie oak is just now defoliating. We're here into February, and leaves are still coming down. So we're having to clean. We have a longer period of time to clean because of that. I don't recommend making it the first step that you put them in the compost pile. The first step of managing the leaves is to grind them up with a lawnmower. You can do it in the turf area, or you can do it in the driveway if you have a large amount of them. And then as the last resort, after you've ground them up, and that makes it a smaller volume, you can put it in the compost pile, which we do some of that too, because we have very little percentage of our property turf. So a lot of it is going on to bare soil. Then the rough Shredded tree trimmings goes on top of that. And then if you have any ground up leaves or still whole leaves left, they can go in the compost pile as the final step. And it's, just like is recommended by Fukuoka, using the shredded tree trimmings. He recommends in the book a whole lot. He recommends straw that he has that's growing on the property and cutting it into smaller pieces and throwing it down, letting it decay and become compost. And that's great. What we use more than straw or something like that is ground up shredded tree trimmings from the arborist's truck. And a lot of you've heard me talk about it a lot. Anybody that's having trees trimmed, they ought to be keeping that material on their property. But if you see a tree care company that's grinding up tree trimmings and it looks like they may be hauling it off to the landfill or whatever, talk to them, ask them if you can keep it on your property. It's a valuable resource for you. I've had a couple of questions about bark falling off of the trunks of trees. I guess the trees that I've heard the most about that lately are cedar elms. I've had a couple of questions on cedar elms, and every year I get questions about pecans. Pecans are notorious about kicking off a limb here, a twig there, a chunk of bark here, and in most cases it's just cosmetic and nothing to worry about at all. If it is coming off so that you can see all the way to the wood, there may be something going on. It could be borers, it could be an animal attack that caused some damage. It could be some stress in the root system that's causing the tree to kick off a little bit more bark than it should be kicking off. If that's the case, the whole sick tree treatment is called for. And then on the areas where the bark is falling off and leaving wounds that are apparent, or if you're seeing some kind of fungus that's trying to get going, not only the overall sick tree treatment, but the tree trunk goop treating those areas is called for, okay? Landscape design, I'm always having people ask me if I do landscape design for residential property, some commercial properties as well. I still do some landscape consultation. I rarely sign on as the main designer of the project. So if you're interested in me getting involved in the landscape of a project that you have, the best way to go is to go to dirtdoctor.com, look in the business listing area, talks about products and services there, and see if we probably do, because we've covered businesses all over the place. You just look up your city and then look up businesses in your area, find a landscape contractor. Some of the nurseries do design build. Landscape architects by themselves might be listed as well. Get a design going, and then if you want me to be involved, the best way to do that is to have a preliminary plan or plans done, and then we get together and I look at it and make some suggestions on how to adjust the direction that you might be going, and make some specific recommendations on trees especially. Some of the construction things we can make some suggestions on, but it would be best to get somebody else involved to be handling the whole thing, and I just help out with it. You see what I mean? And residential or commercial, either one. Oh, interesting question that comes up from time to time, just came up again recently, and that is people bought a new house and they would like to know how long it takes, being on an organic program, for it to be safe to eat the vegetables and the herbs from the garden. In other words, not knowing exactly what the previous owners did. And the best thing to do, I totally appreciate what they're doing here, the best thing to do is to assume the worst. Assume that they were using Roundup and 2,4-D and diazonidine and all that kind of stuff, and do the tree trunk, detox program. They're all related, but the detox program is the one that you spray Garrett juice or a fine textured humate first, and then apply all of the amendments that we use for the basic organic program. And the basic organic program, the amendments, compost, rock minerals, and sugars that we talk about and are listed on the website under bed preparation, those are the things that will break down those toxic chemicals that might still be there. And if you use the entire program, all of the amendments and fertilizers that I recommend that are listed on the bed preparation area of dirtdoctor.com, if you use all that stuff, that's also part of the sick tree treatment and all, if it's all used, it becomes the detox program. And if you do all that, you can eat the vegetables and the herbs that are grown the very first year. But you need to do it thoroughly and really use all the things that we recommend to be on the safe side. Way to think about it, though. It's a lot of people don't think about that. You know, it's especially important if you're going to do any edible flowers. If you're going to eat the flowers of dianthus, for example, or pansies or violas, any of those cool season flowers that it's really good for a lot of people to be planting right now. Those things are great, but you especially want them to be under an organic program before you start eating them. And if you know that they're coming from a growing operation in a nursery that's not using total organic programs and products, you want to make sure it goes through at least one cycle of you using all that good stuff and it getting down in the soil and being able to be transferred into the plant to neutralize things. But you can, the first year, enjoy eating your herbs and vegetables if you're doing the organic program, okay? Another question about lemon tree. The citrus in general, if people are protecting their citrus inside or a greenhouse or in under a skylight or something like that and thinking about moving it out, you need to remember that not only you may have some insects that'll show up, but a more common thing that happens is that people forget that you're bringing a plant, even if it's under a skylight and by a window, you're bringing a plant from much lower foot candles in the house or even in the greenhouse out into full sun. So the best thing to do is when you're sure the weather's warm enough to do it, move it into maybe a filtered light situation, light coming through some trees for a while, or even shade for a few days and then move it into more light and then more. In other words, don't move it from the house right straight out into full sun, even if it's still fairly cool. You need to go through a little bit of a transition period, and then you won't have burned foliage, you won't have a shocked plant, and the plant will probably start setting flowers and go into production for you as you wished, as you hoped it would. Okie dokie, let's see what is next on the list. A question about where to buy Hoja Santa seed. A lot of my videos that showed up on YouTube and Instagram and X and things, and you may have seen in the past, showing my Ginkgo in the fall. We did several of them as we went through the process of it putting on its show in the fall. But we had Hoja Santa underneath the tree, and I showed it from the time it was still really pretty, great big leaves and the white flowers, to a time where it was just burnt black stems when it got the heavy freeze that we got. It's not harmful to the plant at all. It just looks ugly. You cut it down and then you wait for spring for it to regrow. I have never planted it from seed is the answer to the question. I would imagine that if you do a search online, you can find Hoja Santa seed. I would think it'd be relatively easy to grow. I just never have done it. I've always grown the plant from transplants from the nursery. If you call around to the nurseries, look at the list again on dirtdoctor.com of the businesses, that business listing that we have, businesses in your area, and you can find some people that may be near you. Call them first, let your fingers do the walking here on your phone first, and call around, see who has stuff in stock. Anybody that specifically talks about having culinary and medicinal herbs should have Hoja Santa. You can also buy transplants online too. They go through the mail and can be transplanted quite easily. But any of you that have grown it from seed, send me an email, info@dirtdoctor.com or howard@dirtdoctor.com, or go on Facebook and give us the information about where you got the seed and how much luck you had with it, and we'll start to pass that on to everybody and do some seed planting ourselves. Sounds like fun. Oh, let's see here. Can't read my own writing here. Crape myrtle, lost half of it over the shed, had to cut it back, and well, it's carpenter ants again. In a question about crape myrtles, how much can you trim it, crape myrtle back if you've got it too close to the house? Trim it back as much as you have to if it's in the way, or better still, and you can still do it right now while things are dormant, move the crape myrtle, and crape myrtles can literally be dug and pulled out of the ground bare rooted and moved to a new location with pretty high percentage of success. Put it in a place where you can let it grow to its full height and width, and that would be a better thing than trying to keep cutting it back year after year. It can live through it, it's just going to look bad because of all the knots where you've cut the tree back. We do not recommend, if you can avoid it in any way, bobbing back, dehorning, crape murder, whatever you want to call it. Crape myrtles of all kinds, the dwarf ones, the mid-sized crape myrtles, and the big trees should be allowed to grow to their full potential, because they have beautiful, beautiful canopies, and your flower production will be much better if you do that. If you haven't heard me talk about it before, if you have the typical crape myrtle pest problems, aphids, or even the white scale, the sick tree treatment, the overall sick tree treatment, really getting that soil pulled away from the base of the tree, and then doing the rest of the sick tree treatment is the way to get rid of that problem for good. Crape myrtles have big flares if they're exposed properly. Ginkgo, does the ginkgo have any smell? Well, yeah, if you grow a ginkgo and it does like mine and converts to a female, or if you have a female to begin with, you will have fruit, and if the fruit is left on the ground, it does develop an odor. Pick it up, vacuum it up with a shop vac. I'm giving some of the fruit and some of the seed to people to get ginkgos started, and I'm delighted to do that. The chances are at least 50-50 that you're going to have a female right from the beginning. But yeah, the fruit does, if left on the ground, develop an odor. Some cities are even trying to ban ginkgo for that reason. I plant some of the seed bare. I plant some of the seed still in the fleshy fruit that's about the size of an olive, a big olive. And I plant some when the fruit first falls off the tree and the fruit is still solid purple. So you can do it any way you want to do it there. I've had germination with all of those techniques. I don't know which one works the best. Probably the one where the seed has gone through an animal works the best, but without crushing the seed. But they all work pretty good. Other question, some questions about palms. My best recommendation on palm is this. We just went through in the Dallas-Fort Worth area having single-digit freeze in some areas. It froze solid. It even hurt some of the plants that were protected by floating row cover. And palms, you know, we've got at least, I've got 2 or 3 at least articles that I've written about the best palms to use, especially when you're in an area that can freeze. And the #1 palm, there's a bunch of them, I've got them all listed, and I talk about what kind of temperatures you can expect the palms to experience and live through. But the one that is the best for having no problem with freeze situations, can go way below 0, is the needle palm. And we've got a bunch of good pictures of it on dirtdoctor.com. It's a bushy palm. It doesn't grow a big trunk. It grows into a bush and it's beautiful. It's called needle palm because down at the base of the palm, it does have big black needles that come up. You gotta be a little bit careful handling it as a result. And hope your dogs and cats don't get too carried away around needle palm. It's a great one. Beautiful, and I've never seen any insects or disease problems on it at all. It's indestructible in my experience. And let's see, we already talked about the Hoja. I've had some questions about where to get shade cloth. Those of you with greenhouses, a couple of tips there, and some of this comes from my buddy Bob Webster down in San Antonio. He has had a lot more experience with greenhouses with their nursery that they used to have. It doesn't exist anymore. We'll talk about all that in more detail and have him on the show at some point. But the shade cloth that you should get is the shade cloth that's not woven. The woven ones can fray, so try to get the ones that are not woven. That's what you want to specifically look for, and a good place where you can find them is Growers Supply and also Farm Tech. And I think those are two places that are the same place, just two different names. I already talked about the art show. If you didn't hear me talking about it, it's Valentine's Day this Saturday down in Deep Ellum. You'll see under appearances on dirtdoctor.com and in the socials information about that. You'll see metal sculpture from my friend and also some of my paintings down there. And also, I mentioned if you want to come see the art studio, make a private tour, set up a private tour to see all my art in my art studio, we can do that. Just send me an email, howard@dirtdoctor.com. We'll get back with you and set up a time to get together. And like I said, my next Show Tech show will be the 21st of this month, and it will be at the Will Rogers Coliseum in Fort Worth. I think that's the 21st of this month. It'll be on the website under appearances. I'm pretty sure that's right. And let me see what is next for me to tell you about. Well, the last thing is you need to be doing some of the things that I'm doing in Howard's garden. My wonderful vines, the coral vine that is so beautiful every late summer and early fall. It's brown and crispy. I'm cutting it all the way back to the ground, and it'll come out from the ground. The lantana, same kind of thing. Basically all of your tough perennials, you need to go ahead and be cutting them back if you haven't already done that. Chop the pieces up, leave them on the ground as mulch, or as a last resort, once again, put them in the compost pile. If you're interested in doing compost the easiest way of all, I need to talk about it every time I do a podcast. If you get the shredded tree trimmings from a tree care company, just ground up live limbs that are cut out of the top of trees. You can do it with dead limbs too, but the live limbs are better. And the reason is, in the live limbs, you've got nitrogen and the carbon. You got the green tissue, the buds and the cambium layer and the leaves are all nitrogen and protein. And then the dry stuff is the cellulose, the carbon, the wood, the bark, all that. And that mixture of that ground up material is a perfect carbon to nitrogen balance. And you leave it in a pile on your property and it will turn into perfect compost. Put it on the ground. That's the easier way to do it. Instead of in a pile as a mulch, I recommend it across the board, and that's even an easier way to go. Well, I think I covered everything I need to today. We'll be doing at least one for you every week. If those of you have been asking me about my exercise program, that exercise all the joints in my body, I did it. It's up. All of the past podcasts are there. Easy way for you to go is just go to dirtdoctor.com, click on the YouTube button, and you'll find all the past ones and the current ones. And we've got past Podomatic podcasts of just the audio of past radio shows even. So on the homepage of dirtdoctor.com, just scroll all the way down to where you see the cartoon of me and go there and you can see the old radio shows if you want to try to listen to something from the past or if you haven't heard them at all. For those of you already into organics, enjoy those healthy gardens. For those of you who hadn't gotten in yet, come on in. The water's fine. I'm Howard Garrett, the Dirt Doctor, and I'll see you next time.